What's up YouTube, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and this is my hands-on comparison of the iPhone 6 versus the Samsung Galaxy S5. So we've got two flagships here, and it's Apple versus Samsung once again. No doubt there's going to be a lot of you out there deciding which device is better for you, and hopefully this video will help you make that decision. So do hit that thumbs up button, and let's get straight to it. So starting off with the size difference, the iPhone 6 does come in smaller compared to the Samsung Galaxy S5, 3.9mm in height, 5.5mm in width, and also 1.2mm in terms of thickness. So the iPhone 6 is quite a thin device, one of the thinnest devices out there at just 6.9mm thin. It also weighs a little bit less, 16 grams less compared to the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now the size difference does partly come down to the screen size. The iPhone 6 has a 4.7 inch screen, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S5 has a 5.1 inch screen. There's also a difference in terms of display types. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a Super AMOLED display, whereas the iPhone 6 has an LED backlit IPS display. The resolution, the iPhone 6 has a 1334 by 750 pixel resolution. That works out to roughly about 326 ppi pixel density. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a full HD resolution, so that's 1920 by 1080, and that works out to roughly about 432 ppi. There's also a Quad HD version of the Samsung Galaxy S5 available, but that's only to certain markets. Now overall, both of these are very nice screens. Great viewing angles, and definitely some of the best screens out there on the smartphone market. And the iPhone 6 is a little bit more compact overall with that smaller screen size, but the Samsung Galaxy S5 definitely gets the advantage here in terms of the resolution. Firstly, you've got a fixed 1080p resolution, and it's also a higher PPI, so it might not be hugely noticeable, but if you do go to look, you can notice a difference in sharpness with the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now moving on to the build, the iPhone 6 has a full metal unibody design, and it's slightly different from the iPhone 5 and 5S. So you've not got those chamfered edges anymore, you've got a curved back. Now this is similar to some of the iPod Touches that we've seen, and it comes in either the silver, gold or grey versions. Now overall I do think it looks very nice, but I'm not a huge fan of those antenna lines. I don't think they look too great. I wish Apple had done something a little bit different here. With the Samsung Galaxy S5, you've still got a full plastic build, but it's much better than the Samsung Galaxy S4. Now you've got a perforated dimple soft touch finish for the back compared to the glossy plastic finish that we had before, which really wasn't that good, and you've got it in the black, blue, gold or white versions. Now this soft touch back does allow for a more grippy hold, so it does feel quite comfortable and you're not likely to drop it that easily, but it doesn't look or feel very premium. The Samsung Galaxy S5 however is IP67 certified dust and water resistant, so you're not going to have any issues getting a bit of water on it, which is a great advantage. This is something that you don't have on the iPhone 6. So overall the iPhone 6 does look and feel more premium. However, the plastic build of the S5 gives it more of a grip and also allows for a removable back, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. I do think it's going to come down to your personal preference. Now moving on to the internals, the iPhone 6 has a dual-core 1.4 GHz processor, and it's the Apple A8 64-bit chip, and it comes with 1 GB of RAM. There's also an M8 motion coprocessor, which is going to measure motion data independently from the main processor. The Samsung Galaxy S5 comes with a quad-core 2.5 GHz processor, and it's the Qualcomm Snapdragon 801, and you've got 2 GB of RAM here. So on paper, the Samsung Galaxy S5 does look like it's got much better specs, but in terms of performance, they are very similar. I've done an in-depth benchmark and speed test between the Samsung Galaxy S5 and the iPhone 6. I'll be linking that in the description below, so if you are interested in terms of speed, do go ahead and check that out. But generally speaking, day-to-day usage is going to be very similar with these two. In terms of the tests, some the Samsung Galaxy S5 was quicker at, and some the iPhone 6 was quicker at. So I would put these neck and neck, and I don't think you're going to have a problem with speed with either of these. They are some of the fastest devices out there. Now in terms of the different storage versions available, the iPhone 6 you've got 16, 64 and 128 GB, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S5 you've got 16 or 32 GB, although the 32 GB version is not so widely available. Now the iPhone 6 does have more storage options, yes, at different prices, but the Samsung Galaxy S5 does have an advantage of expandable storage. You've got a micro SD card slot which allows you to expand the storage by up to 128 GB. So you could get the largest version of the iPhone 6, or you could get the Samsung Galaxy S5 16GB version and a 128 GB micro SD card, and you'll still have more storage on the S5 at a much cheaper price. Now moving on to the cameras, the iPhone 6 has an 8 megapixel rear-facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD at 60 frames a second. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a 16 megapixel rear-facing camera capable of filming 4K at 2160p. Both of these also use face detection autofocus, which is very fast. Now I've done an in-depth camera comparison between the iPhone 6 and the Samsung Galaxy S5. I'll be linking that in the description below, so if you do want to see side-by-side comparisons of both, do go ahead and check that out. But generally speaking, I think both have absolutely amazing results, and they're some of the best cameras out there at the moment. The S5 does get an edge in terms of the resolution. You can crop in much further, and you've also got 4K video. The iPhone 6 on the other hand does have super slow motion, that's 240 frames a second at 720p. The Samsung Galaxy S5 only has 720p at 120 frames a second. So in terms of slow motion, the edge definitely goes to the iPhone 6, and you can get some great results. I've done lots of tests on the channel. Do go ahead and check those out. You can have lots of fun with the iPhone 6, especially with that software. The front-facing cameras, the iPhone 6 has a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera capable of filming 720p HD. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a 2 megapixel front-facing camera capable of filming 1080p HD. So although the Samsung Galaxy S5 does have a better resolution, in my tests I found that the iPhone 6 actually produced sharper results. The Samsung Galaxy S5, they've made it really soft, and it's actually a step back from the Samsung Galaxy S4, which I believe had a better front-facing camera. So I would give the edge here to the iPhone 6. Now in terms of the operating systems, you've got iOS versus Android here. The iPhone 6 has iOS 8, which is the latest version. The Samsung Galaxy S5 at this point in time has Android KitKat 4.4.2. It should be getting the update to 4.4.4 soon, but it does come with Samsung's TouchWiz UI on top of Android. Now I'm not going to go into a battle between these two operating systems in this video, but generally speaking, iOS is a little bit more simple and straightforward for a lot of users, whereas Android gives you a lot more customization when it comes to things like widgets and really making the device as you like it. The advantage that you have with the iPhone 6 is that you're going to be getting updates directly from Apple. You're not going to have to wait for any third party. With the Samsung Galaxy S5, you are going to have to wait for Samsung to put those updates through to you. You're not going to be getting those directly from Google. Now some of the differences between these two devices. Firstly, SIM card slots. You've got a micro SIM card slot on the Samsung Galaxy S5. You've got a nano SIM card slot on the iPhone 6. This is just something to bear in mind before you get these devices, so you can be prepared. The connectors are also different. The iPhone 6 has the Lightning connector, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S5 has a micro USB 3 connector. So the Samsung Galaxy S5 is definitely more universal, and the cable is going to be a lot cheaper as well. Yes, the Lightning connector you can put in either way, but it's not as universal and it is proprietary, so it will only work with other Apple devices. Now both of these devices have a fingerprint scanner on the home button, but they're completely different in the way they work. The Samsung Galaxy S5, you have to swipe your finger on the home button, which is a little bit hit and miss, and it's not very good. I'd say it's average, and I found myself switching this off because it did get quite annoying. The iPhone 6 has Touch ID, which was very successful from the iPhone 5S, and this is very useful because you can just touch the home button rather than having to swipe, and you can do it at any angle. You don't have to be very accurate or anything, and it works really well. You can also set up to 5 fingers, whereas on the Samsung Galaxy S5 you can only set up to 3 fingers. And I would say hands down the iPhone 6 definitely has the better fingerprint scanner here. The Samsung Galaxy S5 fingerprint scanner has been integrated with PayPal, so you can make payments and things with it. But the iPhone 6 will be getting Apple Pay very shortly. This is going to be in North America from next month, and it's going to be in other countries later on. We're not sure when, and that's going to allow you to make payments wirelessly through NFC and authorize those with Touch ID, which is going to be a great feature. Now both manufacturers have also tried to make it as easy as possible to use these devices with one hand. So for the iPhone 6, you've got reachability, which lets you tap the home button twice, and this essentially brings down the screen so you can reach those top corners. The Samsung Galaxy S5, you've got one-handed use mode, which when activated you can simply swipe from the left or the right of the screen, and it shrinks down the screen once again to allow you to reach those corners. Now there's also an emphasis on health on both devices. Both of them come with pre-installed health apps, which are going to measure things like your calories as well as your footsteps throughout the day. The Samsung Galaxy S5, however, does have a heart rate sensor at the back, which is an advantage. So if you do want to measure your pulse rate to use with those health apps, that's available here on the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now, as always, Samsung have packed this Galaxy device with lots of hardware and software features. Now, I'm not going to run through each and every single one of them, but just to highlight a few. Firstly, you've got customizable quick settings, which is really useful, so you can customize exactly what you want on your toggles. And you've also got multi-window support, so you can have 2 apps running at the same time. And this really utilizes the RAM of the device, so you can have a video playing while you're tweeting at the same time. Very useful. In terms of other hardware features, the Samsung Galaxy S5 does have an IR blaster, so you can control devices such as your television. There's also an LED notification light at the front of the device. This is very useful, I found, because it flashes in different colors and lets you know what notification you may have without actually having to touch the device. You can just see this at a glance. On the Samsung Galaxy S5, you can also use with gloves because of the super sensitive screen. So if you are from a cold country like I am, this can be very useful. Now, in terms of the speakers, the iPhone 6 has a bottom facing speaker. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a rear facing speaker, which is at the back. Now, neither of these are going to be anywhere near something like the HTC One M8, which has front facing speakers. But here's a quick test, both at full volume, so you can decide for yourself which one you like better. Now, moving on to the batteries, the iPhone 6 has an 1810 mAh battery, which is not removable. The Samsung Galaxy S5 has a 2800 mAh battery, which is removable. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S5 clearly here has a much larger battery. I really wish that Apple just made the iPhone 6 a little bit larger in terms of the thickness and added a larger battery. This is because the iPhone 6 has decent battery life. It's definitely better than the iPhone 5S. But for me, who's a medium to heavy user, I did find myself looking for a charger towards the end of the day. I mean, for most users, you should be fine getting through the day. But if you are a medium to heavy user, you might need a top up. Whereas with the Samsung Galaxy S5, I did comfortably get through the full day. And I would say roughly it gives you about 20% more usage compared to the iPhone 6. And because the Samsung Galaxy S5 has a removable battery, you can charge a battery independently of the device, which means you never actually have to put your device on a charger. You can just charge the battery separately and switch it whenever needed. I found this very useful. Now, finally, looking at the price, looking at the base models, so the 16GB models, the iPhone 6 comes in at £539 in the UK or $649 in the US. Now, this is for the handset only because we are just looking at the value of the devices, so this is not on any contract. The Samsung Galaxy S5 for the 16GB base model, you're looking at roughly about £450 in the UK, around about $550 in the US. Now, this is just to point out the difference in value between both devices. The Samsung Galaxy S5 does come in cheaper, but that is because it has been out for longer. So there we have it, the iPhone 6 versus the Samsung Galaxy S5. Now, overall, I think both are great devices and both offer some great features. Essentially, it is going to come down to your personal preference. Do you prefer the more compact size, the premium build, as well as features such as Touch ID that you've got here on the iPhone 6? Or do you more prefer the larger screen size with the high resolution, the water and dust resistance, as well as the flexibility of having a removable battery and expandable memory on the Samsung Galaxy S5? Then there's always the question of which operating system is better for you, iOS or Android. So which device do you think is better after watching this video? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time. If you want to see more regular videos like this one, then be sure to hit the subscribe button, which will be below. If you're on a mobile device, it may be somewhere else. If you want to see my previous related video, then hit the link right here. If you want to stay in touch over Facebook, Twitter and Google+, then all of the addresses will be there somewhere, as well as direct links in the description below. Okay, if you're still watching, then that means you've not done one of those things, so, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just gonna go downstairs. See. Okay. There isn't really a downstairs. Anyway, so yeah.